Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raj Bahadur Chauhan from EM final year. My topic is should military training be made compulsory for all in India? I am favoring this topic. Military training should be very compulsory in India because on the time duration of military training, a person who get trained having most of maturity level as well as self-discipline and self-manner. And also, if happening any war, then can defend by self and also can make a need to help to others. And on the duration of military training, a person get very consciously and concentrated about that. And when having any calamities and natural calamities, then can defend. And I want to give you a very good example. In nowadays Russia, where is the President Vladimir Putin is also having a background of Navy. His father was in Navy and he is a very known as very most powerful person on the planet, having a lot of experience on the Khufia agency known as Secret Agency, also KGB. And after that he got continuously from 2002 till now, and also have to amendment on the institution constitution for continuity by 2036. So if the military training goes to be compulsory for all Indians, it is nowadays having fourth rank on the world. It may be first because of it is not compulsory to be made of physical as well as emotional activities. Also it can eliminate the religion system as well as caste system.
So Raj, I have a question for you, which is that you are saying to implement military training for everyone, that is to mandatory military training for everyone. So what if some person who is willing to become a terrorist and got training from army and start killing army itself, isn't good? Listen, you are saying that you are saying the mandatory army training to each and every person, every country. Okay. What if a person who is militant and who wants to become a terrorist, for example, in case of Jammu and Kashmir, and he got training from army and started killing and harming army itself? So what would be responsible for that? Can you please answer?
On the duration of military training, it is learned by so many things about nationality and make a very disciplined as well as self-mannered. And if a person get trained on military in Indian, they can learn so many things. And it is about terrorists. So that I want to explore it one, that if anybody want to really become a terrorist, if having no love about nation or having no patriotism, then they can be terrorist. But if they join Indian army for the training like us, it may be 6 months, 1 year or more than that. Also, definitely they get nationality. So it also it not create a terrorist. It be reduce the terrorist, I think.
My question to you is that, as you said, military training should be compulsory for everyone. What if someone after having military training, they are trained in all the forms of combat techniques used in military? They will be aware of it. What if they become rebels after that? Won't it be a disadvantage for our army? Means after completing their military training, they become rebellious. They rebel our nation. They go to some other nation. They can just sneak out our ideas, our combat techniques, our fighting techniques. So wouldn't it be a disadvantage?
I believe it's the same question in another format. Another question.
A similar question actually.
Okay. Carry on question.
Good afternoon. My question is that if someone parents are not sending their wife for the training, then how can we convince them that they should be patriotic towards the nation? How can we convince their parents to get the training for the students of the nation? How will you convince them, the parents of them?
this is not only for India, it is also having already so many countries which is very developed and very popular countries in the world like Israel, Ukraine, Russia. They providing this type of facility. So every parents get inspired by this one. It is having not a lack of emotion. Also it may be male or female. It is also make a very good discipline as well as self-defense. So if this facility provided by government, then I think everybody has joined to it.
Rajbahadur, can we imagine a situation where a person got a military training and then he became the president or the prime minister for the next 20 years? So don't you think the person will be ruthless, brutal? He is expert in people and he becomes the leader to the nation. So don't you think this is a disadvantage of the training? What do you think about it?
Sir, I think it not to be a disadvantage, but make a very good nation. Like I take an example of Russia, the President Vladimir Putin make the Russia a very most powerful country in the field of defense as well as another other fields like near more than 1 year the war between Russia and Ukraine goes to continue. It is a reason that the powerful nation to peoples as well as the rules and regulations provided by the government is well mannered.
What about Pakistan?
Sir, I think in Pakistan having no military training should compulsory.
They have leaders, they come from the military background.
Sir, due to lack of some other regions having because if you compare the India and Israel in the field of Air Force, then in the area of the Israel and India having 20 times less than in only Uttar Pradesh, not more all are India. And the Air Force system is too strong, very greater than India. I think having only 4 aircraft in India and 1,887 aircraft in Israel. So it is also depend not only by the peoples, it is also depend on the how many other weapons are having on the nation.
I predict that 21st century is an Indian century with the statement of Jeff Bezos, the founder of the Amazon. Good afternoon everyone, my name is Ankur Awasthi and this is my topic. Gradually increasing his status on various global platforms, India has emerged as a potential superpower. In the terms of the economy, after the rapid growth of China, India also adopted LPG reforms, which increases her growth, and it was estimated that there would be a shift of global leadership from America and Europe to the Asia region, and India would be surprising even America at the mid of this century. The two of the major factors for this growth of the India is that India's large expanding consumer market, and the second is India's large force. India is already on the 4th position and it has a capability to be on the 2nd if we are integrating our military with the AI and the hypersonic missiles. If we are commercializing our space sector, then it would be also for the boom. Today, world is highly dependent on India for highly skilled professionals because Indians are on top rankings of various tech giants like Google, Facebook, and persons like Geeta Gopinathan are also on the top positions of various global organizations like IMF, World Bank, and even United Nations. There are a lot of advantages for the Indians in the terms of the soft power. India is a historical civilization. It has its link from the range of the Asia to the Caribbean, and it is a birthplace for the various religions like Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. That's why it is already a superpower in the terms of the soft power.
My question is, you are saying that the 21st century is the Indian century and India will be the superpower, next superpower. and recently an index called happiness index and a food index also says that India is far behind our neighbors country like Bhutan, Bangladesh, and even Pakistan. So how do you how do you say that India will be the next superpower even if they cannot overpass the Pakistan? How will you compete with Russia, China, and America also?
It would be totally incorrect if you are saying that India is behind all the countries like Bihar and Bangladesh and Pakistan. There is a demographic age in the India that India has average age of 28.5. China, which has average age approx 38.5, and Japan, which has age of 48.5, has enjoyed his age of this demography. Now the ball is in Indian turn. And if you are talking about the superpower, then there are some parameters on which a country's superpower is defined. These are military strength, these are a soft power, and these are nominal GDP terms. It is estimated that India at the approx 230, India would be at the third. India would be at the second and would surpass even America in the terms of purchasing power parity, and it would be in the terms of the nominal GDP, it would be on the third after surpassing Germany and France, and Germany and Japan. And it is estimated that India would be surpassing even America at the mid of this century. And we all are knowing that India, in the terms of the military, is already on the 4th position. And we are just going to surpass even Russia. It is estimated around 2030.
Next question. Yes.
We all know India is a developing country, but what about the waste management system? Did you think that India has to be improved their waste management system? In Delhi, the mountains of garbage is increasing day by day.
Yes, I believe that India should need work on this field. In this field, India is working a lot. Our IIT Madras is doing a lot in this sector, and there are a lot of things which could be integrated in our education system for that. Yes, sir.
What are the parameters for a country to become a global power or superpower?
Sir,
Elaborate. You need to elaborate. Just don't give me the headings.
Yes, sir. There are some parameters, like one is the soft power. As India is already, we are looking at, India is enjoying a historical civilization and it ranges from Asia to Caribbean. So in the terms of the soft power, we have a lot of NRIs who are working in a different country. So we are already have achieved some milestone on that. And second is a thing which is the military power. In the military terms, we are already on the 4th, and we would be at the 3rd at approx 2030, and it is believed that we could be on the 2nd after surpassing even America at 2050. And there is another term which is the capability and budget, which is related to the GDP of a country. In the terms of the purchasing power parity terms, we are already on the 3rd position after China, America. And in the terms of the nominal GDP term, we are on the 5th, and it is believed that India would be on the 3rd position at around 2030.
Good afternoon, honorable judges, worthy opponents, and my dear friends. I, Shruti Singh of BATEC 3rd year, will speak on the topic technology is doing harm more than doing good. In earlier times, necessity was the cause for inventions, but in today's time, inventions are the cause for necessity. Ever wondered why? Because in our day-to-day life, we are getting more and more dependent on technology. Why so? Because even for performing simplest of calculations, we need a calculator today. Why? Because we are dependent on calculator. Many people think that technology is making our life comfortable and easy. No, it's actually degrading our life quality. It's weakening human body. For example, of a toothbrush. toothbrush to brush our teeth. But is it really good? No. Just to tell you that toothbrush is the reason why most of the people suffer from teeth diseases. Why? Because toothbrush degrades the top layer of a tooth known as enamel, which is responsible for protecting our teeth from various type of diseases or problems. As Sir Christian Louis Lynch said, technology is useful servant but a dangerous master. Have you ever wondered why people living in slum areas or villages, they never go to visit a doctor? Is their immunity any different, or are they any different? No, it's because they are deprived from all the facilities that we have. We have been so competent, we have been so easygoing that we have been so dependent toward facilities that we struggle even without them. Like we have been so dependent to AC that we can't tolerate high temperature. We are so dependent to refrigerators that we can't drink hot water. But they have their own benefits.
In today's era, we know very well without technology in any field, it is not possible. Because as you take an example of villagers, they in modern time they also use so many type of technologies like smartphone, tractors, and self drone as well as. So without using technology, how can survive our life? Do you think about this?
There was a time when technology doesn't existed. People used to survive at that time. Also, they were used to accomplish a lot. Like this first time, for the first time, when the distance from the earth to the sun was calculated, I don't think there was even the presence of a telescope. But our rishis, our munis, they were able to calculate it. How? Technology is not something on which we should be dependent. It's look fancy. That's why we are so attracted towards it. But it's not. Even so, Albert Einstein has said that I fear the day when technology will surpass human interactions. The world will have a generation of idiots.
Should we have a question for you that you are blaming technology in terms of, in context of medical, that we are much more dependent on technology. But my question is that in ancient time in America, Native Americans were in harm due to a disease, and Britishers gave them vaccine of that disease. So if Britishers don't give them their technology to protect them from that disease, in today's time whole Native Americans got wiped out. So instead of blaming technology, if we blame humans, isn't it right for that?
As you said, talked about disease. Where does disease come from? Disease come from different type of mutations that occur in nature, from different changes, and those changes occur only because we are developing, we are generating new and new inventions, we are developing technology. They are the reasons why different type of disease come. As there was a technology to make a vaccine, what if the disease was spread by them? There is no chance. Like COVID, it was an artificial virus. What if that was an artificial virus as well? It's just that, as it is said, that if there is a problem, we look at the root for its solution. So if there is a problem generating from technology, it's our human nature to look at the root, as technology is the root, so we go there to find solution as well. But if there is no technology, there won't be a problem, then it won't be needed.
Shruti, being a student of biotechnology, how do you see technology in medical sciences? Do you find it relevant or irrelevant?
So, as a student of biotechnology, I'm mostly fascinated by the facts how our rishi and munis used to treat people, because that didn't even have side effects. The thing we do now, genetic mutations or making medicines, it has a lot of side effects. At that time, technology was not there. They were only dependent on nature, because even it is said that if nature creates a problem, it creates a solution near to it. That's why. I think being biotechnologists, the technology the present technology, the fancy one, it's not correct. The one we had in our history, we can learn from it and try to incorporate like that, instead of being dependent on machines and AI.
A very cheerful afternoon to an hour present over here. I'm Gopal Tiwari, and today I'm going to express my views on the topic, should education be free for everyone? So I would like to initiate my thought with a quote. It is, education is one of the most powerful weapons that you can change the whole world. The quotation was by Nelson Mandela. He was former president of South Africa. Now, it is most debated topic, but the fact is that if we provide free education to all, then it will definitely give a great impact on the society, in our country, and education is one of the basic human right, basic fundamental right that is given in our constitution. So why don't we provide it free to each and every person? If we provide education freely to one and all, then it will give equal opportunity to all. Because education is most required thing to become a human. Because if the human is civilized, then it is only because of education. Now, another thing, someone say that if we provide free education to all, then it will give burden on our India's economy, in our country's economy. But the fact is that the same government is providing and allocating 932 crores for the Central Vista project. The Central Vista project is also about constructing of new parliament, and is creating a new parliament, constructing a new parliament is more important than education of children. And the fact is that UP government is also providing scholarship, but the budget is 732 crores. But we are providing more budget to such projects in comparison of education. These such projects are more important than education. Another fact is that we are in UP government also, your government has said that they will provide 10 lakh crore rupees for the development of religious tourism. And the fact is that the whole country's education budget is just 1.2 lakh crore, 1.2 lakh crore. So now compare where is 10 lakh crore and 1.2 lakh crore rupees. How can we differentiate between them? Is tourism or religion is more important than education? The fact is that, and someone say that there are no benefit of it because people will educate, what will they do? Now I have some advantages point for all of them in context of society in any country. Number one is that economy. If a country has most educated person, then the country will have different perspective level, different productivity skills, and if there is.
Hello Gopal, my question is, if a student, if a child from a poor street and his parent doesn't want him to get studied, his parent wants just him to continue his business, whatever his parents are doing, what will be your opinion for it?
In most of the cases, there is a preconditioning done by most of the parents because they think that if they send a child, it will require a lot of money. But if education is free, that type of perception, preconditioning will not be there. Therefore, parents will try to send their children because they will know that government is providing such type of scholarship, facility, and many other things. If education is free, such type of preconditioning perception will not be there, and this will change mindset of each and every person, even if it is poor or richer or a middleman person. Thank you.
What's your name?
Tushika, what do you have to say about the evaluation of education that results from underfunded and crowded free educational institutes?
Education is not completed, and education in which there is no skill is some other topic than education in which money is required. Because if you are doing B.Tech, most of my friends who want to do B.Tech and do engineering and some technological courses, some professional courses, are not doing this because of lack of money. But the fact is that there are some people who have money and are sitting in our seats, and they are not doing hard work for that. They can. Some other student who want to become an engineer could acquire skill after sitting in that seat. But in comparison of that, if a person who has money but does not want to study, there is two different cases of that: under education and getting free education.
What are the characteristics of an educated person?
So first one is to behave in a nice way, behave ethically, and second one is to have a proper knowledge of the things that are around ourselves. Because the person is just have a degree and no knowledge, no way of speaking, and no ability to stand and sit, no ability to communicate. These are things that are most required in to have a person with educated attitudes.
Before dying or going under the earth, the most valuable quality you should learn is being down to earth. With these thoughts, I, Garima Shukla, on behalf of Biotech branch of 3rd year, is here to express myself on the topic, a creator of today's era and entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person that makes his own decisions and make a successful business. What he needs to consider is that he must have a good courage, he must have a good quality of speech. For example, if I am an entrepreneur and I would have to convey my message to a large number of people, if I would simply say, hello, please be silent, I think no one would hear sitting would pay attention on my voice. But if I have the quality and I would say, hello everyone, please pay attention on my words, then I think most of the persons sitting over here would pay attention on my word and I could easily convey my message to them. Which means for a good entrepreneur, it is very necessary that he or she must have a good quality of speech and he or she must have a good quality of confidence. If he or she is having a good quality of speech and courage, he can surely be a successful entrepreneur. It has been seen that there are lots of successful entrepreneurs. For example, Dhirubhai Ambani, Vinita, and many more. Also, there are various number of competencies which an entrepreneur must have into its skill, which is a leadership quality, a negotiation power, a good communication skill. Also, he must be very persistent. That means he must know every of the things that what he is going through. He should also be very effective on what he is speaking, on what he is having in his communication skill. If we ask them what is necessary of the entrepreneurs, the basic necessity is that it will help in the increment of the GDP of the country. Also, they will help us to maintain a social and economic growth relationship among the people. If you also have a look, then it will also help you to maintain the gender equality among the various number of people. For example, the sugar cosmetic is being run by a lady named Vinita, which shows that women even can be a successful entrepreneur. At last, okay, thanks for listening to me and have a marvelous day.
My question is how any entrepreneur can become successful in India right now, where the IT recession comes, many of the startups are going to shut down after the recession in IT, and how the unicorns are shutting down right now, where the government is charging high taxes, GST rates. How can entrepreneurs survive in this type of environment where every new tech startups are going to shutting right down?
Thank you, Paras, for the question. So my answer for the question is that if we have a look, then government is also trying its best to help the aspiring entrepreneurs to help. For example, they are running the various organizations also in which they are providing the free funds to the aspiring entrepreneurs. Also, if you know about EDP, the EDP stands for Entrepreneur Development Program, where the various number of organizations comes and they teach the aspiring entrepreneurs that how to behave, how to react, and how to be a successful entrepreneur. So in this way, even with a little bit knowledge also, anybody can start up and be a successful entrepreneur. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My question is that the quality of the product matters or the qualities matters in an entrepreneur?
Of course, the quality of the product matters because what is the main goal of the customers? What they want? They want that the product must be cheap. They want that the product must be very easily available. They want that they must have the various number of choices for them. So product really matters. Then only you can circulate all of the stuff all around the country and all around the people. Thank you. Yes.
One direct question. Entrepreneurship is about skills or mindset?
Sir, it's all about growth actually. If I say then skills, it includes persuasion skill, it includes negotiation skill, it even includes communication skill. As I said in my example, that if you don't have confidence, then you cannot actually make yourself successful. So it's all about skill.
All about the skill.
Yes, according to me what I.
Good afternoon everyone, I Kashish Rai from BT 3rd year. I am going to present a topic, electromagnetic radiations are good or bad. As Dr. Stephen Maggie said, all the human beings are living in a cesspool of electromagnetic radiations, which means all the humans are using the electromagnetic radiation devices which are causing lot of problems to them. Even we can see lots of people are using electronic devices. Even for a single day, if we allow them to be separate from these radiation devices, they won't be able to survive even. As it is also mentioned by Dr. Martin Paul, these radiation devices are causing a lot of serious problems in human beings, such as infertilization, causing cancer problem, apoptosis. These are the serious problems among human beings. And a data shown by ICNIRP, it is shown that 0 to 300 gigahertz are the safest range of radiations. But a line set by Linus Pauling is that there is no safe range of radiation, but a small range of radiation can also harm them, which means a small amount of radiation can also harm us. But those who know the risk of radiations, they also ignore the radiation risk and they start using these devices. But those who don't know the risk, they simply, even the animals and the birds are at risk, because the birds are getting affected, they are dying just because of the radiation. I would like to give an example of a movie, Robot 2.0. In that movie, it is also shown the birds are dying just because of the radiation coming from the cell tower. I would also like to give an emphasis on this line that children are also getting affected by the radiation. They absorb a lot of radiation, that is 60% of the radiation in comparison to adults. And at last, I would like to conclude my line with these few lines said by the Edward Abbey.
If we observe EM spectrum, then we would find that visual light have a more frequency than radio waves on which these mobiles and networks are working. Then why we are saying that visual light is not harmful and radio waves are harmful?
Thank you for asking the question. I would like to answer this question in this way, that I am telling the radiation coming from these devices, whether it doesn't depend that EMF is only responsible, lot of other radiation are also responsible for the diseases. So I would like to answer like the radiation which are coming from these devices are only the cause of getting disease and getting weaker human beings in this era. Thank you.
You want to ask? Yeah.
Hello, Kashish. You said that there is surplus of passing of frequency, means a fixed frequency is being made for every particular thing. Then also the frequency is being passed. So to whom you should blame that? Why is this happening? Because if the surpassing of that frequency won't happen, then I don't think that the major effects what you are telling about will happen. So to whom to blame for that surpassing of frequencies?
Garima, the cell towers which are being developed, which are being made these days are the main cause of this radiation, because there is a set parameter of these radiation ranges, but the cell tower, the manager of the cell tower doesn't care for that. They only care for their income which is coming from the cell tower. So they are not considering that range. They are just utilizing that range. They are just giving the speed and ranges towards that cell power, and just because of that they are not considering the range. I would like to blame those cell tower managers, because in government it is already mentioned that you have to be in these range of radiations, but because of the excessment of the range, these birds and animals are also getting affected.
Kashish, do you know a person, a scientist in 2017 got the Nobel Prize for this field? You know it?
So I'm so sorry, I don't know.
Okay. Can you provide any solution means among these all gadgets being in the radiation? How can we survive?
So earlier we were using a lot of wired equipments, lot of wired devices which were emitting less amount of radiations, and we can also use the protecting coverings like the laptop coverings which emit less by covering those laptops with those protecting coverings. We can protect ourselves from being directly affected by the radiation, and even by sleeping we can also keep our instruments, our devices at a distance so that we cannot get in direct contact with the radiations.
But the scientist provides a solution. I want all you know. It's called zero volt therapy. Go to YouTube and search. Zero volt therapy. That's the solution for all.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
A constitution is not the mere lawyer's document. It's the vehicle of life. Its spirit is always the spirit of the age. Said by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And with this quote, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Tanay Kumar Tripathi from CSC 3rd year. As we are celebrating the 75 years of our country's independence, and it is important to reflect on document that embodies our values and aspiration. They call the Constitution of the India. And my topic is the Constitution of India and the preamble of the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India is not just a legal text; it's a living document which hopes and dreams of our founding fathers. The most iconic part of the Constitution is the preamble. Preamble serves the guiding path of our democracy, and the preamble proclaims that India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, and it promises that equality, liberty, and the fraternity to its all citizens. These words is not just aspirational; these are the essence of our country. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar once said, "The constitutional morality is not just natural sentiment; it has to be cultivated. It has to be cultivated, and we must realize that the people have yet to learn it. Democracy in India is only a top dressing on an Indian soil, which is essentially undemocratic." This quote defines that the Indian Constitution is not just a static document; it has the power to process the required.
Well, what do you have to say about the abusive powers that comes under preventive detention law?
The abusive power comes under which? Detention law. The abusive language, according to the right of speech, Article 15A, that dictates that no one can speak above the limits, which means you cannot speak over the Supreme Court or any dictative property of Indian heritage. Abusive language should be used if in the case of two individuals are talking to each other, not in the case of if you are talking on the public speech. The Article 15.8 also says that if anyone is using abusive language during the public speech, it should be not included in that speech and it should be punished according to the law. Thank you.
You are talking about there is a law, there is in constitution, there is a freedom of speech you are talking about. Right now in India, the freedom of speech is increasing at such a level that right now we are abusing the freedom fighters and especially Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. So what kind of freedom of speech we are getting into it? If we abusing the father of the nation, is it the freedom of speech?
As I said before, the article from 14 to 18, the right to freedom of that includes the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, but in a conventional manner. No one can directly abuse the public heritage, public property, or public dignity. If he is doing that, then he comes under the IPC law, which guarantees which guarantee the punishment according to the constitution. And we go for the Article 21, and Article 21 clearly mentions that if anyone doing that such a job that questions the Indian dignities or the governmental dignities, then he will for the life he will be for the Constitutional Law Act 1978, which clearly which after the 44th Amendment Act 1978, which clearly says that if anyone questioning the governmental heritage or the governmental dignities, he will surely go under the barcage.
We are the biggest democracy. We are the biggest democracy.
Yes, sir.
And you know the highest enemy of the democracy, who is it? Which is the biggest enemy of the democracy? Is the illiteracy. Now what happens? The same constitution serves for the people who are accused of Article 302 murder. The same constitution serves those people. So what is the solution for that?
Sir, please repeat once again. Second part of it.
By the same constitution,
Yes, sir.
they are the people who are murderers.
Yes, sir.
Constitution serves them. Why? What is the solution? How would you handle this for the country? Benefit for the country.
Sir, the beauty of our constitution is that no one can, if a convicted person cannot be punished for the same crime. The Article 302, after the amendment of 44th Amendment, as I said before, 44th Amendment 1978, it clearly says that if a convicted person is not ready to hold its dialecticity of its own, then he should be free from that represent the Article 21, which says that he can go for the President of India, and clearly says that he is not in the dialecticity and he can prevent ourselves.
Artificial intelligence is the fundamental risk for the existence of the human civilization. A very good afternoon to all. This is Paras from Civil Engineering 3rd year, and today I am going to talk about how the artificial intelligence is going to become a curse in the future. When I am talking about the artificial intelligence, in the era of the 21st century, of the year 2023, artificial intelligence is developed at such a level in the background where deep learning and the machine learning works at such a level that the machine learning produces the feelings in the machines. Let's suppose the situation when any human offended the feelings of the robots, what will going to be happen? It's the biggest question, and I cannot deny with the dispute with the fact that it may be going to raise the war against the human with the machines. And if you listen to the interview of the Sophia, the first human-made robot, and when the interview asked, will you destroy the humans? And the Sophia, the first human-made robot, replied, okay, I will destroy the humans. So the biggest question is, what kind of artificial intelligence we are going to expect and what the outcomes is generated? And what kind of the future we are going to provide our future generations? Is it the war between the machines with the humans? The biggest question is. But when we are talking about these statements, we cannot connect with them because these topics are not so much trendy in India. If I'm talking about the Japan Research Lab, the research lab of the IT sector is creating the 4 robots. And these 4 robots killed 29 humans in the lab. And by anyhow 2 robots are deactivated at the moment, but 1 robot anyhow get the signal from the obligatory satellite, and they download the information how to regenerate yourself even more stronger. Then see how the situation it is. But when I am talking about these things, these are not trendy in India, but when I am talking about the India as a mass level, artificial intelligence takes place in the social media. And in India, when people are using the social media, it is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. In India, people are not surfing the Facebook. Sir, in India, the people are suffering from Facebook, and it's the biggest fact.
Hello.
My question is, as you are saying, AI is curse for us. But what about the 3D printers? They are printing the organs as well as some other printing things. So how they are curse for us?
When you're talking about the 3D printers, and in 3D printers, if you go in depth, there is a programming of C. And if you're using the 3D printers, we know there is the benefits of the AI, but we should know the limitations where we have to set the criteria and the parameters. And if we're talking about the 3D printers, then there is simply work of the 3D printers is to generate the prompt from the data which is you getting in the 3D printer. So it is just the output of that data that you are going to develop. So it's that simple it is. There is no curse in the 3D printers.
ChatGPT is an example of AI. Should ChatGPT is to be banned for certain age because the thinking capability of student is gone at very low level due to the ChatGPT?
Yeah, and I will give the answer with my statement. In India, when people are purchasing the packet of tobacco and cigarette, there are clearly mentioned that there is a oral cancer photograph, and there is a clearly mentioned if you consume it, you get the cancer. But still people are using it. Because at the moment it does not create the disadvantage, and the same thing happens with the ChatGPT. At the moment ChatGPT is maybe the benefits, providing the benefits, but when you go in depth as a student, when I'm as a student, I'm talking about the ChatGPT. Now at the moment when the ChatGPT Plus is launched, and the feature is that you can summarize the whole video, even the tutorial of the 10 hours, you can summarize in the text of the oral speech form. So it is. We are making our mentality handicapped in terms of when we are going to creative skills. We are talking about the argument skills. We are going to handicap in the mentality, and starting of ChatGPT is the initial level, is the starting of the become to handicapped as a mindset.
Paras, we have AI, we have Pegasus, we have Metaverse. Everywhere you look at and you find a certain thing.
Yes.
I just want to conclude. I want you to conclude your speech. Why does it happen? What's our motive to get into these things?
I start from the ChatGPT. We know that the ChatGPT can generate the data before the 2021. After the 2021, if you search anything, ChatGPT cannot create the data. So it implies that we should know where the limitation should be. The AI is. From where the criteria we should have to limit it, and apart from that limitations we should not go further, because if we go further there is no limitations of greed, and the human nature is there is no limitations of the greed. And when we are talking about the metaverse, when we are talking about the Pegasus, actually the origin of the Pegasus is used to detect the activities of the terrorist, but right now there are some kind of rumors are around that it is going to be a wrong used. And when I'm talking about the metaverse is basically the virtual world, and it seems to be a real. It actually creates the 3D avatar where you do any kind of activity that you do in the real world. But we have to understand the fact that we create the machines, we create the AI. So we should not give the right to AI that what should human have to think, what should human have to take the steps. That is it.
Britishers are gone, but not Britishness. Today, with this quote, I would like to introduce myself. I am Purnima Singh from BTech CSE 3rd year. I am going to put forth view on Azadi Bachao Andolan. By the name, it is very clear the Andolan is about the Azadi. Azadi about what? Azadi from the slavery thoughts of the Britishers. The movement is initiated in 1990s by Rajiv Dixit. The name Rajiv Dixit is not much familiar with the youngster in today's time because due to the mislead of our national media. The Azadi Bachao Andolan is about to rescue the Indian culture and Indian tradition in India. Firstly, you have to put a point that we have to rescue our culture in India. First, this is the shame for us. Firstly, I want to make a view that Azadi Bachao Andolan has a goal to promote Ayurveda, to promote Indian ancient education system, to promote Indian setup industries. I have given certain examples. that MNCs are corrupting our culture and tradition as much worse level than you think. I just want to conclude that about Hema Malini. Hema Malini advertised about the Lux soap, but she never uses a Lux soap. She told this thing to Rajiv Dixit that I never use soap because this is caustic. She used gram flours and milk cream, but she advertised these things. And about the Pepsi Cola, Amitabh Bachchan have damaged their large intestine due to the overuse of Coke in Pepsi, but he never tell in publicly that that due to the Pepsi Coca-Cola he damaged his large intestine because he advertised Pepsi Cola and signed a document of 100 crore that he will never say against anything Pepsi Cola.
As you mentioned that Amitabh Bachchan got an large intestine infection from Pepsi Cola and it was never disclosed to anyone. So how did you come to know about it?
In video of Rajiv Dixit, he told about this, and in the news that it was mentioned that large intestine is damaged, but the reason was disclosed. But in personal interview with Rajiv Dixit, he told you can use my name for the public welfare, but I cannot do this because I have to pay 500 crore rupees to the Pepsi Cola and I will become poor.
You are saying that to save our cultures, but as the India is a union of state, Sikkim has different culture, Kerala has different culture, Rajasthan has different culture. Which culture actually we have to save?
The culture which is exactly originated in India, in particular regions. I am talking about the culture of Kerala, culture of Karnataka, culture of Tamil Nadu, every particular area which is belonging to India.
मुझे पता है, you talked about आज़ादी बचाओ आंदोलन. आज़ादी क्यों बचाओ?
Azadi, we get freedom, right? But what about the thoughts, the mindset of are still about slaves of Britishers. For example, I want to give you example. We use Colgate. You use Colgate. In ancient time, the tune was used. Why you use Colgate right now? The Colgate. Firstly, I just want to disclose the reason why Britishers, why the Westernization people use Colgate, because there was no name. Babool, so they use Colgate. I have to very brief. I can give. So the reason was that they have not good digestion system. The acidity problem due to the overeating of their you can say bread and all these things. Their teeth get a bit of tight, you can say, and they have to a bad smell from them. But in India, you have neem, you have babool. And first thing I want to mention, in Colgate, in India, the advertisement is just like you just give child Colgate and their tooth are so good. That's not type of things that have to be India. In precaution, in all toothpaste is recommended use only pea size of toothpaste, and under 6 year age old children have to be use the toothpaste with their parents' permissions. No one is noticed these things because the idiot box. I just want to conclude, TV is an idiot box due to the unnecessary and not sensible advertisement. The youngsters are getting deviated from the right path.
MNC destroys our culture. If I get an opportunity in an MNC company with a good offer, would you accept that or not?
No. Firstly, I just want to conclude that the intention of a person, the MNC is coming from where? Outside the country. I am not talking the MNC which are developed in the India, which is originated in India. How can they be harmless for ourselves? But the greed of Britishers we are seeing from hundreds of years.
Just like जैसे Britishers अभी हैं और हम लोग जो ये सारा ड्रेस कोड्स भी पहने हैं.
Yes, I am talking about the dress code. The shoes and the socks are not ours. There have a certain reason, a scientific reason that we are why they are wearing socks and shoes because of the in Western country the winter is all about 12 months, so they have to wear socks and shoes. Due to the winter, they feel cold. But in India, the season are changed in 2 months. So I just want to request that you have to allow us to wear sandals.
Are we moving towards westernization or not?
What?
Towards Western culture.
Can you just repeat?
Are we moving towards westernization or not?
You are moving towards westernization. I don't think so, but I'm not moving towards westernization because my thoughts are belonging to India.
Good afternoon. I am Tushika Srivastava and I am here to voice my opinion in favor of the argument that should beauty be more inclusive to diversity. Well, I have few questions and hope perhaps you could answer them for me. When you woke up this morning and got dressed and looked in the mirror, did you consider yourself to be beautiful? Did you poke and prod at every little thing they might see? Did you count all the unflattering angles they might see and notice and bring it to your attention? Well, maybe not today, but how about this week? This month? Plato famously said that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. A quote with good intention, yet ever so misleading. I hope you understand when I'm here, I'm disagreeing with Plato as I say that we all have been brought up in a society that do not allow any difference in opinion when defining beauty. So let's consider an alternative definition of beauty. What is beauty? Beauty is a combination of unique features in any shape, form, size, or color that is pleasing to our aesthetic senses. This definition in itself is our very own defense against discrimination, that is, inclusivity. Inclusive beauty is a beauty that caters to all, to people with any color, race, or ethnicity background. But women have typically been depicted as a body idol that is thin, slender, and fair skin, whereas men is to be fit, masculine, and lean. But these narrow idols rejects and fails to cover the diversity of other cultures, ethnicity, and backgrounds. Do you remember the product description from past, like for normal skin, for normal hair? These all are discriminatories and make and sound anyone with oily skin, with vitiligo and thin hair, acne to be abnormal. Thank you for listening.
So my question is, how do you address that thing is beautiful? The thing is beautiful, especially when it is inherently flawed and imperfect.
Beauty is all about enjoying the experiences that we have. What I'm talking about is the patriarchal, but is about the patriarchal society, the standards they have set upon beauty that particularly defines about how women should look, about how women should walk and talk and behave in a certain manner. Well, the beauty is not flawed. Beauty is something that gave us confidence and assurance. And let me tell you, confidence and self-acceptance are the ultimate true essence and markers of true beauty.
Let's consider a scenario. As our society is almost putting effort about the true beauty, about the beauty, like a woman should be in some category. So, what do you think? If there is a lady or if there is a girl who is dull in color, who is fat a bit, and society isn't accepting that girl, so how would you say that the true beauty matters over there?
Well, my topic is exactly about this. When we diverse and when we say that beauty is all about inclusivity with diversity, like when we include not just like typical slim women, thin women, slender women, but also women with different color, like black color and thicker women, we are exactly telling them that you are beautiful the way you look. But my topic is about telling people that you have to be
consider beauty with holes in the person's eye, then why do we have so many beauty products all around India and all across the globe? And why people put so much of emphasis on beauty products? Even if you look for the marriage holistically, there is a lot of things given on beauty standards. So how do you define that? So please.
How the industry is also involved.
Exactly, how the industry is also involved about that. So please throw some light on that. Yeah.
So what happened is, like, if a woman is forced to put on makeup to look a certain way because of the patriarchal beauty standards set by the society, then it is her enslavement. But when a woman desires and wants to put up makeup because she wants to put it on, it is her empowering. So what I want to say is that all these, even the beauty, beauty companies and brands, like, they are now indulging and involving all the diversity. They are more gender equal beauty brands and products. They are products about for person with progressive muscle, progressive muscle wasting disease. The people who have progressive muscle wasting condition, they are beauty products for them as well. And she defines, and person is named as Emma, she defines that all these products are basically like a workout for me. When I put on makeup on my face, it's like an entire workout for my hands, and it's actually helpful. And moreover, she's thankful to those new companies, new brands, for creating products that are for people, that are actually helpful for people with various disease. So what I want to say is that people can choose to put on makeup if they want to put on makeup.
A very enchanting afternoon to honorable jury members, worthy opponents, and all my dear friends. I, Shweta Yadav, student of CA's third year, feel highly privileged to radiate forth my views on the topic, execution should be legalized. I believe that death is sometimes a punishment, often a gift and a favor to many. Because some crimes are so heinous, so brutal, so degrading that I believe the only way or only adequate way to punish an offender is to take his life. Because execution is just not a legal punishment or a capital punishment, but it's a way to punish a perpetrator or a culprit legally. I believe that the execution should be there in our constitution, and I wonder that if it was that wrong, then why Constitution of India has articles like 302, 376 and 194 that guarantees execution for murders, for rapes and for terrorism. Don't you wonder that the execution given to the accused of Nirbhaya rape case and Afzal Guru was right? Have you ever thought that if it should be abolished, then why? To leave those victims, those accused? At last, I would like to end my topic with a quote that no excuse, no explanation. If you don't win on emotion, then surely you are going to win on execution. Thank you.
So my question is that suppose a scenario that our constitution and our judiciary system always have emotional point with the girls. If a girl or a woman commit a crime which is highly heinous and it should be grant a death penalty, what is your view over that? And if it is comparison with the male's commitment?
I believe that everyone is equal before law and everyone should be